Welcome back to another episode of Lady Justice Talks, where curiosity meets law. Today you're here with
Anita.
and your host Susubi. And we also have a very beautiful guest, Romina. She's a lawyer or you will introduce yourself because I know I'm gonna really summarize your experience in 2 words. But the very good thing is that you're returning to York, which is very exciting.
Yes.
So yeah, you can please introduce yourself, tell us about your background.
Yeah, so my name is Romina Hallan. I am actually an alumni from York University, so I actually completed my undergrad here. I did criminology. I was heavily involved with McLaughlin College and did all the fun student council stuff. And then I actually went to the University of Windsor for law school, completed a dual degree there. So I have a law degree in Canadian law and American law.
Ooh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it's expensive, but you know. And then I got called to the bar in March 2024, and I've been practicing as a licensed lawyer since then. It took a while to get there. It's a long journey, but that's a little bit about my background. And now I'm just practicing immigration law, working as a full-time lawyer.
What drew you specifically to immigration law? Like, was there any part of your journey that made you decide, like, I want to do immigration law out of all the types of law?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one thing about law school generally is that you get a lot of exposure to very narrow types of law. So when you go to law school, they obviously help you try to find out what you want to do. But most of it is catered towards corporate law, family law.
I was gonna say
law.
that
Yeah.
most of our episodes, like whenever we're interviewing someone, it's always corporate law,
Yeah.
especially if they want money. I
Don't make me to. I want to do corporate.
yeah, like I'm not saying you're influenced, Anita, but I'm just saying. So
okay.
I was surprised and happy
Yeah.
to see that there's people
new
who want
perspective,
new perspectives.
yeah.
Was there like an aha moment that yes, this is the type of law that I want to practice? Or?
Yeah, I think so. So I did my undergrad in criminology thinking I would be doing criminal law.
Yeah.
And then I went into my first year of law school and actually learned criminal law, not so much theory, because when you're in undergrad, they talk a lot about theory and social application, but you don't learn about the practice of an area until you go to law school.
Right.
So when I did criminal law in first year, I just thought, okay, this is not for me. So then I kind of freaked out because I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I'm not a numbers girl, I'm not a science girl, I'm not interested in IP, I'm not interested in corporate. So I had to actually do a lot of dabbling with different elections in law school. So I did family law, I did immigration law, and I think just learning about immigration law was what made me feel comfortable in starting to apply to the jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty much it, just doing the actual course and thinking this is material I think I can see myself working with for the rest of my career.
For listeners who might not be really familiar with immigration law, because as Susu points out, we haven't had really that many episodes on it, how would you describe immigration law and the type of cases that it involves?
Yeah, so I mean, immigration law is essentially just helping people from all over the world come to Canada. So I help people come here, I don't help people go elsewhere,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So anyone who wants to come here, whether it's as a student, a visitor, a worker, if a company needs help bringing foreign workers to Canada to work for them, that's
that's
the
nice.
work I do. Or even,
Because I always visualize, I guess, like that's what I thought immigration law was about. It's just like a one-on-one, but companies is a bigger thing. Because I feel like a lot of people think of corporate, they just want to like be involved with a company in some way, and then they think that's the only way you can be involved with companies. But no, it could be more of a
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the immigration work I do right now actually is corporate. So I work with companies and I help them bring foreign nationals to Canada to work for them. Or if they have a highly specialized person who is in let's say an office in Europe, we would help them bring that person here. But it's not even just limited to that, like there's people who want to come to Canada but can't because they're not allowed to. So I help people navigate that. And then I think what my actual favorite area of immigration law is pertaining more so to federal court. So helping people who have had refused applications go to federal court and basically appeal the decision and try to overturn it or get it sent back for redetermination. That's a huge chunk of what I do now on a day-to-day basis.
So you said you work with a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
How exactly? Because you said for immigration law, it's mostly about helping. No, not mostly. It is about helping bring people in and not take people out of the. I mean, like help them move. Which I was actually. I don't think I knew that. Like, I thought it goes, like, both ways.
Yeah.
So that's really good to know that it's just about helping people enter Canada.
Yeah.
How do they, like, find those
like
candidates?
Yeah, like, I guess find... like, how do people outside of...
I was
Yeah,
gonna
'cause
ask.
it's like-
I'm an immigrant myself, which is the reason why I wanted to do this episode so bad. Because I was just imagining it. I was like, how...
Yeah, how do you get in
How
touch
do you even
with,
get in touch?
like, immigration
Yeah,
lawyers?
so I think the biggest thing is people, at least what I've learned from working for 2 firms at this point in my career, is like there's a lot of buzzwords that people all over the world use to find lawyers who work in Canada. So you'll find like Canadian immigration lawyers or Canadian... A big term is LMIA, which is a type of application that people use to get to Canada.
Right.
So I think it's a lot of just like searching for a Canadian immigration lawyer. Whereas like, let's say I want to go to France, I'm going to look for a French immigration lawyer because that's who would help me get to France, right?
Yeah.
So that I think that's honestly a lot of the clients that that we've received at the firms that I've worked at were all through just finding someone on Google. Right? Like, because obviously as a firm, part of it is running a business. You advertise yourself using search engine optimization and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it is just Google search or word of mouth or like...
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
even
sense.
for me in psychology, because I always try to relate things to psychology just because that's
Yeah,
my
no,
major.
for sure.
Like we always talk about, like for example, counseling psychology. If you need a counselor, they will find you. Like the people who needs a counselor will find you. It's not that you'll have to go outside and be like, by the way, I offer therapy. You know, that's how it works.
I mean, maybe when you're first starting your own law firm, that's probably what you have to do, right? You have to get your name out there. You got to network. But I think when you work for a bit more of an established firm, they start coming to you. They hear about you. They see reviews online. They see whatever it may be. But
so you wouldn't say it's harder per se, because I when I visualized it, I was like, I'm supposed to reach out to these people from all over the world, really.
Yeah.
So I thought, that would be harder than dealing with like corporates or stuff like just right here.
Right.
So it's not harder, you think?
I don't think so. So I mean,
Okay.
I work for a firm, so I'm not really at the forefront of getting business, but I think it's really easy.
And do you like that?
I prefer it for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody's, at least from the people I've spoke to and the people I've been around at law school, a lot of people's goal is to whether be in-house counsel down the road, so you just work for one company and you're their internal lawyer, basically, or you work for yourself.
Right.
So I think right now I'm comfortable working for somebody else, and then when the time comes where I'm just kind of at my ceiling of learning, that's when I might want to pivot into, owning my own firm or running my own show. I think at the end of the day, being your own boss is probably the goal.
Yeah.
Like, it's not fun to answer to people, for sure. And I think that's something that I wish was instilled a little bit more throughout everybody's education in undergrad. Like, there's this whole concept you have to go work for somebody. You don't have to. Like, you can go be your own boss, and eventually that's the goal. It's just a matter of time and how long it'll take to get there.
I'm really I'm inspired by your relationship with time, because I feel when the question you answered earlier when you're talking about how even after you got into law school, that's when you realize, I don't really like criminal law that much, and I want to do something else. Because I feel like it's a misconception that a lot of people think that once you got into law school, you have your life together, so you're supposed to be doing this now. But no, there's still opportunities to learn, even right now. Like you said, you're still learning, and then after that, maybe that will take you somewhere else, and that's just inspiring.
Yeah, I think it took me a while to get over the whole idea of being on a timeline. And I think it's just, you have to remember time is a construct. Like,
and
you're
law
on...
school is like 3 years.
Law school is 3 years, yeah. So it goes by fast. I mean, I went into law school really thinking I was so set on being a criminal lawyer and that's what I wanted to do. And then when I realized it wasn't for me, I just said, wow, like, I basically, I felt like I basically went backwards for 4 years, and I was like, well, what else could I have done in undergrad? But like, I still don't regret my undergrad decision. I actually really enjoy the criminology program at York. But I think, yeah, you can't follow people's timelines or like this idea of time, or, you know, I have to be a lawyer by this age. No, like, I went to school with people who were so much older than me, or like, I went to school with people who were even younger than me, like years younger than me. And I, you know, you have moments where you feel like you're behind, but it's not. You can't let that deter you from just kind of getting to your end goal, you know? So.
And I have a question about previously when you said you work more with federal cases.
Yeah.
Like when the clients' like cases get rejected or like just something with that, would you be able to like tell us or explain to us what type of cases, for example, or what type of problems there are that the people face and how you handle it as an immigration lawyer?
So, I mean, federal court is where you go when you want to challenge a tribunal's decision. So, for me, as an immigration lawyer, the tribunal I'm dealing with is the Immigration and Refugee and Citizenship of Canada, the IRCC. So, anytime a client, or even my own clients, have had a decision rejected for the wrong reasons, for an unreasonable reason, that's when I would take it to the federal court and challenge it basically on the topic of unreasonableness. So you learn about this in law school a lot. There's a case called Vavilov that is basically the foundation of administrative law and federal court. And you basically just challenge the decision on the basis that the application is unreasonable because of the evidence that's put forward, or maybe the officer got something wrong in, you know, the body of law in the Immigration Act, or maybe the officer ignored evidence and didn't assess it properly. So in those cases, it will, for me at least, I actually have a pretty good... I don't want to toot my own horn or anything like this, but like I have a high settlement rate, meaning that after I submit my arguments, the opposing lawyer on the other side, who basically represents the IRCC, they kind of just back down and they're like, okay, let's not go to court. Let's just
like you're right.
Yeah, like you're right. Yeah, I get told I'm right. And then it just goes back to for redetermination with another officer. So that's basically what federal court work is like. It's kind of tiring because it's like you're just writing all day. You're writing, you're reading, you're researching. That's basically what being a lawyer generally is too.
Is there like any specific story? Because you've been working as, you said March 2024 you got called to the bar. So you've been practicing for a year now?
So I've been practicing as a licensed lawyer for a year, but I've been doing immigration law since, I think 2020.
2020.
Yeah,
okay.
like as a summer student, you try to find a, or no, not 2020, 2021. I started, in 2021 is when I actually got a summer placement after I finished my second year of law school. And then I did articling as an immigration student, as an articling student. And I've basically been working in the field since 2021, but I've been a licensed lawyer
for the past
year. Yeah.
Was there like any specific story that made you realize like, yeah, I'm in the right, like I chose the right field? Like that was like a touching, like it might have been a hard like case, but at the end of it, it made you like be like, yeah, this is like where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, so I actually had because I do all areas of immigration law, whether it's corporate or individual or refugee. So I actually did my first refugee hearing when I had just become a lawyer. I think it was April of 2024. It was my first refugee hearing. Refugee law is such a noble area to work in, but it can be very emotionally taxing and very exhausting. Because you hear a lot of different stories from people who have experienced a lot in their life. So it was my first hearing, and basically I was trying to help the person claim refugee status for persecution for their religion from their country of origin. So they were feared of going back to their country of origin because they thought that they would basically be killed because of their religion. I prepped the client as much as I possibly could. I thought I put my whole heart into it. And at the end of the day, the hearing didn't go successfully. He was rejected. But then I took it to the appeal level. So I went to the Refugee Appeal Division. That's the next step in that process, and got the decision basically completely overturned. So I think in that moment, a lot of being a lawyer is just battling your imposter syndrome, like all of the doubt that you feel, or oh my gosh, I didn't do enough. So I think that whole process between April of 2024 and whenever the appeal was overturned, that was my moment of okay, maybe I do belong here, and maybe I'm actually good at what I do. Because again, a lot of what the field teaches you is that or not teaches you, but makes you feel is you're not enough, and you can't. There's only so much you can do as a person, but everyone is going to make you feel like that it's not enough. So I think in that moment, that was when I was just you know what, I'm doing a good job, and I'll be able to fulfill whatever duties I have that come to me for the rest of my career moving forward.
This feeling of not being enough, do you think it had to do with your identity as a woman or a person of color, or was it just a general feeling that you feel just when you're new in the field?
I think it's a lot of everything, actually. So I mean, I don't come from a family of lawyers. I'm the first lawyer in my family, and you actually end up going to law school, meeting a lot of people whose their
families are
generational. Generational lawyers. Their dad is the partner at XYZ firm on Bay Street, and you just feel so inadequate, and you feel like you don't know what you're doing, and you're well, I didn't even know what half of, I don't know, for example, people were talking about in my first year of law school, people were talking about this term called OCIs. I'm what the hell is an OCI? What is that? What's an OCI? And it's on-campus interviews. And then that was my first time even learning what an on-campus interview was. It's when law schools come to the school and try to recruit students for their summer term.
Well, I'm glad you're telling everyone.
Yeah, now you know.
And a lot of people know
now
about
you
this.
know what an OCI is. But I think a lot of my imposter syndrome came from actually just not knowing enough and not being equipped enough to go to law school.
But that also wasn't your fault.
That
doesn't, even for the audience, if you feel like you don't know enough, that doesn't mean you're necessarily behind.
Yeah, that's
very true.
Because I feel I would think that, because as an immigrant, for example, I had a lot of these feelings as well that I don't know enough because everyone has been here.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you would think that, if she was here and she did her undergrad here, then she will know everything. No. Even the people who did their undergrad here, even if you're just, a new immigrant who thinks everyone already knows everything. No, here's a great example of someone who did their undergrad here, and there's gaps in knowledge, which is fine.
I try to think about it how I try to always remind myself that everybody in life has their own goals and priorities to reach. So obviously the knowledge that they have is according to their life plans, right? So maybe when I go to, hopefully I go to
you will.
If you hadn't told me about the on-campus interviews, maybe I would have gone my whole law school without needing to know about it or just anything like that. You know what I mean? So it's just based on, it's what works for you best.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the whole feeling of just not being enough, it's almost, it felt like, it doesn't feel like it as much anymore, but it felt like it was instilled in me from the day I went to law school until I finally got called to the bar. Right. And even I had my moments as a practicing lawyer now, sure, but you're just surrounded by it's so easy to compare yourself to people. It's so easy to think you're behind. It's for example, I failed the bar exam a few times before I was actually called to the bar. And I was just having insane moments of I'm not enough, not able to do this. I don't know what it's going to take for me to actually get to my goal of just being a lawyer. But I think you'll have your aha moment where you're just okay, you know what, I'm actually good at what I'm doing. But I also can respect the fact that it doesn't come that easy to people. It takes a while to actually feel like you are enough to do your job. And I don't fault anybody for having their moments of, I guess, self-pity or, imposter syndrome feelings. It happens.
Honestly, one thing that I do is a piece of advice. I don't know if people would do this, but I would write down all of these aha moments that, I am enough. It's for some reason, it's so easy to remember the moments when you were not doing good.
Oh, yeah.
But then when you did do good, or there is a moment when you're like remembering that, yes, I do belong here, it's just, it disappears.
Yeah.
So I have like in my notes app, I just have this like, a reminder like,
should.
oh, this happened today.
Yeah.
And it reminds me that blah, blah, blah. Like these
For
reflections
sure.
actually like,
They mean
help.
a lot.
They mean a
and
lot.
They help. And
Yeah.
it's, like you said, it's so easy to get bogged down in the things that you failed at. There are
Right.
so many things I've done, that have made me feel like I don't belong in this area of work. But I think when you look back on it, it's not as serious as it could. As long
Yeah.
as no one got hurt, it's not that serious. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from those
Yeah.
moments.
Is immigration law a male-dominated field?
Actually, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe other immigration lawyers view it differently, but I would say it's pretty male dominated, but it is very like ethnically diverse.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of like male leaders in this field, but
That are people of color.
that are people of color. So, I would say it is male dominated, and it can be tough, especially working with, let's be honest, a cisgendered white man. Working for someone in that nature can be really difficult. And I've been there before, and it's not easy. It's tested me and my abilities as like a woman of color in the field. But I was actually really lucky because my first time entering immigration law, I had like my mentor is a woman of color, and she's been doing the work for 10 years now, and I'm lucky I got to learn from someone like that instead of someone who I can't relate to.
Right.
So
Of course,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's important to make sure you have good mentors, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a cisgender male, like white male, and you are providing like good advice,
Yeah,
that's good. But honestly,
sure.
when we see examples that view it more of like a power dynamic, like you work for me,
Yeah.
that's when it gets really
Yeah.
I'm
bad.
better than you.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the, yeah.
It's really easy to, I mean, not really easy, but it's really common to find yourself in a situation where you have to remember you're just a number, or like you have to remember that you work for somebody, you answer to somebody. So those moments can come and haunt you a little bit. But I think when you have a good boss or a good principal or a good mentor, it's not going to feel like that all the time. So
Yeah.
I think, and one thing that people kind of underestimate a lot when they're in this field is like, when you go for an interview, sure, they're interviewing you, that's fine, but you have every right to interview them too. Ask your questions, research them. I actually know a lawyer who asked another lawyer for their references. It sounds odd, right? Because you're in a moment of vulnerability because you need a job. But at the end of the day, who you work for is just important as,
You don't want to work for just any.
Yeah, you don't want to work for just anybody. Like,
Yeah.
you have to make sure you know who you're working for, and it's a good decision for yourself. So I think when you put yourself in a situation where you know you're going to work for someone good, you're not going to feel that, I guess, inadequacy in yourself as much.
We kind of spoke about this before. We were talking about, formulating your resume. So we were talking about how, for example, let's say I'm volunteering for something for the 2S LGBTQIA.
Yeah.
And then that obviously shows the person who's hiring me that I am advocating for this. And then we were asking, should I remove something like this when trying to go for an interview?
Right.
Because then, it's much easier for them to take me.
Yeah.
But then someone actually said that, do you even want to work with someone who does not share these values?
Of course.
So that's another way
Yeah.
to think about it, that you don't want to just change yourself because you really want a job. And I know it's important when you want to get a job.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Especially when
it's...
some jobs have a lot of stereotypes around them.
For sure.
And that you have to fit into specific labels. So a lot of people have to hide who they truly are. Like when we had an episode of how we should dress, and they're like
Oh man, that's a topic I could go on for days about.
yeah, like the standards, there might not be one specific dress code, but you don't really see people, for example, wearing bright colors.
Yeah, right.
Or that many dresses.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, I mean, you don't want to like you said, when you're doing your resumes, you don't want to work for somebody who isn't going to be able to respect or value what it is that you're advocating for. And then on the flip side of like how you dress for work and stuff, I've actually been pretty lucky in the sense that where I worked, as long as it was appropriate, they didn't care. Okay. You know what I mean? But it's also dependent on the area of law you work in. So I mean, immigration is a lot more lax. Like, you know, you can go into work in jeans. I've gone into work, you know.
Anita's thinking about it.
I would like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, but if you're working for like, you know, a big fancy firm, they might take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, that's what I meant by like stereotypes and having to fit in.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that. I mean, unfortunately, I've heard horror stories about, you know, people receiving emails about how they dress not being appropriate enough. And like, I get it. You're a lawyer, you want to be professional, but like, just because I wear jeans to the office doesn't mean I don't know how to do my job.
Exactly.
You know? So that's a topic I could go on for days about.
I can imagine an email like that. If I'm a lawyer, I would sue them. I'd just be like, yeah, how dare you say that about my jeans?
Yeah, I mean, I get, like, of course, look, I'm all for looking good, feeling good. You know, everyone might feel great in a power suit, that's for sure. But I mean, if it's not going to impede your ability to do your job, like, it should be fine, you know?
Yeah. I feel like you're bringing a lot of, like, while you're talking, you bring a lot of, like, you know, skills that you've been really utilizing, and I think, you know, you're doing them really well. Like, it's self-constraint is one of them, because I feel like if I was in situations like yours, I would, you know, get emotionally, like, you know, charged. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about, like, the skills that it really helped you throughout, you know, even throughout your undergrad, because, you know, you were also, like, saying that you had, like, some moments of, like, self-doubt and stuff like that. So skills throughout undergrad, now, how do you utilize, like, which skills?
Yeah, I mean, throughout undergrad, the biggest thing for me, like, especially if, you know, York U students are listening and stuff, I think it's so important to be, I wouldn't say like loud necessarily, but like put yourself out there. Like, be excited to be in the public eye, or like be excited to do events, be excited to go to club events. Like, that kind of builds your confidence a little bit. When I first came into York, I was not a confident person. I was lucky enough to have really great friends here who helped me realize I can put myself out there without being loud, or like, you know, it just helped me build my confidence a lot. So like, I think putting yourself out there is like one of the skills that I think I value a lot, because now I feel comfortable going into a room of like a bunch of scary middle-aged lawyers who like are just kind of having their eyes on me, you know what I mean? So that's one for sure. Just like put yourself out there. And then I think in terms of actual work, I still struggle with this on a daily basis, but when I was in undergrad, I was incredibly organized. Like, that was something I did pride myself on a lot, was that I was on top of my deadlines, I was on top of studying, I'm not going to say I'm not the smartest person in the room or anything, but I was able to like manage my time in a way that allowed me to get good grades. Not to like, you know, I had my bad marks on my transcript, that's for sure. But like, as long as you know how to manage your time and stay organized, you can succeed as a student, you can succeed as a lawyer. As a lawyer, it can be a little bit more difficult because, you know, your sense of responsibility is so much higher that sometimes organization ends up taking a little bit of a back seat. But I feel like just confidence, time management, and you know, staying organized, those are the things that have kind of driven me to being happy or successful in my career. Yeah.
As an immigration lawyer, you were touching upon being in the firm. I just want to know, like, what's the work environment like? I mean, you said your firm is pretty, like, relaxed, for example, with dress code. But just generally, how would you say the work environment for immigration law is? And, like, does it happen to be more solo-based, or teamwork also plays a big role in it? Like, how are the...
Yeah, I mean, so the firm that I've worked for 2 firms in my time of being an immigration lawyer. So I had the one that I articled at, and then I was a lawyer there for a little bit, and then I transitioned into a new firm just to kind of get more experience, honestly. There was nothing wrong with either firms. I loved both of them. And the one I'm in right now is also great. So I think in terms of like the structure, I would say that immigration is a little bit more lax in comparison in terms of person-to-person interaction. It's a little bit more lax. Like, I'm able to go to my principal and just ask a question and not think twice about it. I think in like a little bit more of a fast-paced, large number of people working in a firm, in situations like that, it can be a little bit intimidating for people. I would say it's a lot more, I do a lot of my work individually, but I know that there are people in the firm that know something that I don't. So that's where it can be collaborative. Because like in immigration law, I work a lot more with caseworkers and paralegals than I do other lawyers. Because like, and the caseworkers and the paralegals, they do areas of immigration law that I might not understand. And then I do work that they might not understand. So it's a lot of like knowledge exchange. And like you're just kind of working together to get to the one goal of just helping someone come here successfully. That's it.
Honestly, I'm glad that you said that you're even, because when I'm imagining, for some reason, whenever I imagine immigration law, I imagine that you're working from home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
'cause
do work from home.
Okay, yeah. So that was not like a misconception.
No. It's
Yeah, because I
no.
feel like it's a pretty hybrid-ish job in comparison to
For
other
sure. Oh my
fields.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
would
if you're
say
talking
so.
Especially
to
if
someone,
you're in contact with somebody that's outside the
yeah, so
country.
you'll be
yeah.
on Zoom, on some sort of
all the time.
like a online meeting somehow.
The first firm I worked for was like in person, and then eventually it was a little bit more hybrid. But I did enjoy being in person because one thing about work from home is you're just at home all day.
Yeah, it's pretty isolating.
Yeah,
I think
it can be isolating. But then the firm we're at right now, yes, I'm completely remote. We we operate as a remote firm, but it can be. I think when you're working for a firm that works remotely, you have to prioritize your interactions with other people at the firm because it's so easy to become isolated that way. But right now, with how my firm structure is and how like friendly everybody is and how easily approachable everybody is, you don't feel alone all the time. Like, you can just message someone and get an answer, or you can call them, you can video chat, whatever it is. But yeah, a lot of immigration law is solo practitioners or very small firms. Like, there aren't that many big immigration law firms out there that are filled with like hundreds and hundreds of lawyers. Like it's more common to find smaller firms or people who work for themselves, or like one lawyer and like two assistants. Like, it's very common to have that range.
Actually wondering, how would you describe the work-life balance, especially if you're working with clients that might be in a different time zone than you too? Like, how would you?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Oh gosh.
Like, the time zone is a big thing. I always forget that the time zone is something. Although I talk to people like from back home, but we just happen to always have this like couple of hours that are perfectly
But
good.
then, like, for example,
But
that
if that's
window
my
could be
job,
like past the working hours.
sure.
Like,
Because if it's a
9
9
to
to
5,
5,
Yeah.
if you imagine it this way, that's probably like a 12
and then
to
especially
11.
if you're working remotely.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have a work-life balance. I
We like the honesty, because that's what, people gotta
it's
know.
one thing that you gotta know about being a lawyer is like you might, unless you get really, really lucky and you have a firm that is very forward in work-life balance, like, that's very rare to come across. It's not that I don't have a work-life balance or I can't have a work-life balance. It's just the way I work, I end up, like, I don't know, I have a day where I'll work 9 to 5 and I'll get everything done, but maybe the next day my 100% isn't available between 9 to 5, and instead it's available from like 5 to 10 p.m. You know what I mean? So I think like, and then working with time zones, I think that doesn't really impede for me. Like, for example, my firm's operation hours 9 to 5. That's it. 9 to 5 standard Eastern Standard Time. I'll reply to you when I can in those hours. So the time zone doesn't really impact.
So it's the clients that have to adjust.
Yeah, the clients do have to adjust.
Which makes sense.
Yeah,
Which makes sense.
And I think that's actually a common misconception with being a lawyer, is that like you have to bend over backwards for your clients. Yes, you do to a degree, but not to your like detriment, where like if the time difference is 12 hours, you have to be up at midnight. Like, no, that's your clients will adjust. They will work with you specifically. Like, you can only do so much bending and backwards, especially when you have a full roster of clients, or you have like, I don't know, some people work with like 40 to 50 clients a day, right? So you can only do so much bending and whatnot. But anyways, in terms of like work-life balance, it's when you work from home, it's easier to dictate your own schedule. I try my best to do my work between 9 to 5 so I can have my evenings to myself. But, there might be weeks where I have deadlines and I'm pulling an all-nighter, or there may be days where I'm like pushing it until 8 p.m. or, maybe I have a lighter day and I'm kind of done at 3 p.m. and I'm just trying to be available to anybody else who might need me at the firm.
Right.
So I mean, work-life balance in the early years of your career is not going to be possible unless you work for like a firm that really, really, really values that. So that's, again, goes back to the whole topic of make sure you're choosing your employers wisely, because if that's important to you, you got to make sure you're not going to be working, 15 hours a week or something. Yeah.
You said deadlines. Do you have to do a number of specific cases throughout the week?
No. So with deadlines, it's kind of, with immigration at least, if someone is doing an application and the person from the government who's assessing the application needs more information,
they need it by a certain day.
They'll need it by a certain day. So those are the kind of deadlines I'm working with. Or federal court, you only have they're very strict on their deadlines, and like amending them for an extension of time. It's a whole process. So that's what I mean by deadlines. It's actually the client's deadlines, not mine. I mean, unless my boss is kind of like, Romina, I need this done by this date, which doesn't really happen too often because I'm kind of, as much as I work under somebody, like they're still, like my principal right now is very hands-off and lets me work at my own pace to make sure I'm meeting other actual deadlines and obviously still keeping up to date with everybody else's cases and stuff.
I have a question. It might be a stupid one, but I'll ask it anyway. Is it that like your clients, are they like recurring? For example, like I'm an immigrant, I came to Canada. Is your role over, or do you still like help these clients with something after immigration is done? Because for example, when I think about it, I think about like accounting, like like an accountant. Is that a type of law? Like, right? Like it's kind of ish.
I don't know. I'm not.
I don't know that much, honestly.
How I would work that is, for example, let's say they come here with like a tourist visa and then they want to become a refugee.
Yeah.
Would you work with I think that's what's like.
Yeah, because I feel like there's specific like legal fields where like you could see the same person multiple times. Like for example, when I thought about accounting, I thought like I see that same person every April when it's tax season.
Exactly.
So so as an immigrant, is it that like you stay with me for a while after that? There's other things that you could do, but like, or is it that once Canada accepted my case, I'm staying here. That's it.
It's a bit of both until somebody becomes like a citizen. So let's say somebody comes to me and they're in another country and they say I need a work visa or like a work permit. I help them get the work permit. They're here, but that work permit's eventually going to expire.
Right.
So then you have to you need to help after that. And then let's say they apply for their permanent residency. They've gotten their permanent residency, but then there's going to be a time where they want to do citizenship. So it's a little bit of both. Like some people might only come to us for one thing, and then some people might come to us again and again and again until they reach their end goal of citizenship or whatever it is. But then in terms of that, a lot of people, at least the communities in Canada, like a lot of people who are immigrants, they have an immigrant-based community, right? So you get the referrals are kind of going all over the place.
Like, because I can imagine, like, after I get my citizenship, maybe I want someone from back home now. So, like,
so then you'll come to me again and be like, how can I get this person here based on my status, based on their situation? So it's a little bit of both, but I would say it's definitely more so, like, once the job's done, the job's done.
Right.
Yeah.
Do immigration lawyers, like you said, work permit, citizenship, do they also work with, like, tourist visas and all those? Or are those different?
No,
the same?
It's the same.
What about people who become... I forgot the word I just used like a couple minutes ago.
Refugees.
Yes. So all of these are handled by immigration lawyers.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
No, I'm glad you talk about all of these because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about what you guys could be dealing with or what you could not. Because like even like I know like for example I know that because like I studied a little bit about it. It's just like the difference between like refugee claimant and refugee like an actual refugee like an accepted case and then like because people just somehow just accidentally just think about it as like, oh, you're an international student. Like, no. There's other statuses.
There's like an international student here with like a student visa, and then there's an international student here.
That too.
Like, actually, I don't know. A work permit
There's
visa?
probably something else. Yeah.
So there's a bunch of things.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about like these misconceptions about immigration law and also about, if you can, like about immigrants. Because I feel like right now, is a time where like immigration is a really sensitive topic.
It's such a sensitive topic right now. I mean, the way I can explain it is like I'm definitely somebody who is for immigrants always because the country needs them, right? But I'm also not going to sit here and fight with some internet loser who thinks that immigrants shouldn't be here. Like,
Right.
that's not, like, my job is just to help people come here. That's what I view it as. But anyways, in terms of, like, my ideas of misconceptions with, immigration law generally, is that I think a lot of people think that it's not an area of work that needs a lawyer. That's because there is something that's called an immigration consultant in Canada, and those are people who are licensed with like a different a different regulating body. But they don't have, not to say that they're not well equipped to do the job. They can be. But I think a lot of people have this idea that
It's enough.
yeah, like it's enough, or like you can do it by yourself, or like, it's an easy process. I actually don't think immigration is easy. To this day, I'm learning.
I agree.
Yeah, like I'm learning to this day that there are things that I don't know as like a lawyer, and I'm trying to figure it out. It's having representation is actually the best way for somebody to just get what they want out of the immigration system in Canada. And then in terms of like misconceptions about immigrants in Canada generally, is that people think we don't need them. But like, let me tell you, we do.
Yeah,
Huge. It's
and
a
I feel like
problem.
in other like domains as well, because I was always like bringing this topic up because my mom is a gynecologist back home, and I see like how hard it is to get certified as an immigrant when you come
Oh
here.
my
It's a whole
gosh,
thing, and
it's
I've seen my
ridiculous.
friends who have like
Yeah.
professors, like their parents are professors, and they come here, and it's just like. It's hard for them, and it's heartbreaking when you think about it,
Yeah.
because they can't really like practice something that they are good at.
Yeah, for sure. It's such a bad systemic problem. Like the fact that somebody, there are some countries who were like, if you're a doctor in that country and you want to come to Canada and be a doctor, they're so easy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Canadian immigration system is so easy about it. But then if you have someone who wants to come from like, like they're licensed as a doctor, but they're from a third world country, like that process is not as
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
not at all.
hypocritical, because
It's
I've
hypocritical.
seen my mom like volunteering. Like when she came here, she volunteered like in medical settings, and they're pretty cool about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can volunteer, but once it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to like actually practice and get some money out
Yeah.
of it, is that like now it's
Oh,
oh, no,
yeah.
we don't really know
Oh,
what you're gonna do to the
gosh.
patients now.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's a pretty like, that's why like I feel like immigration is a pretty emotionally charged.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Section
I've seen some people
law.
have to like omit some stuff from their resume because they seem overqualified.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Obviously also about the license and everything, having to do some courses. A lot of people like back there in their home country have way higher
They have
positions,
PhDs and they have
and then when they
masters,
come
yeah.
here, it's
Yeah.
like you're too overqualified for this job.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so hard to.
It's hard to transfer your career from back home to Canada because there's just so many things that there's a lot of what's the word, barriers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of barriers, or there's a lot of like there's a word for it that I'm like, it's not coming to my brain right now, but like there's so many obstacles that you have to go through just to show that you can do the same job.
And they're really
here.
weird obstacles when I think about it, because I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm angry.
Yeah, we should be. We should be angry.
It's really weird obstacles, because when I think about it, I know there is like, we're pretty apolitical, but I know that there is a lot of talk about the healthcare system and how the healthcare system, because I'm just talking about like, for example, there's this idea of a doctor, the healthcare system. There's a lot of people who are just we don't have enough doctors, so you think about it like, we need that.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, but we don't really, do we really need to help with that, right?
Well,
That's
like,
the
yeah,
issue.
I mean, let's talk, like, if you want to talk about doctors, like, Canada will open their doors to doctors from the US, the UK, country, like, like countries in Europe, whatever, but then there are doctors who are just as qualified from, like,
third world countries,
third
like you
world
said.
countries,
Yeah.
Right.
or like, and it's just so much harder for them to get a job here. But we need doctors. There's like, every time you go online, there is a article about the fact that our healthcare system is failing, or like
Yeah.
we
The
don't
wait
have
times.
I
Yeah, the
even
wait
heard-
times are a problem.
I don't know if this is true or in like thing yet, but I've heard international students are not allowed to go to med school anymore.
I'm not too sure because
I don't know,
I'm
like,
not.
or I just like heard something about how that's going to be implemented,
That's
or
why I
something
wouldn't be
similar to that,
surprised.
or something similar to
That's
that.
why I'm
something
saying
surrounding
immigration right now is a pretty, rough topic.
It
I feel
is,
there's a lot of
yeah.
changes that are happening, and
Yeah.
you will like when you're telling me this, I'm not like, oh my god, like that, I can't believe that, because I'm like, oh, that could happen. Like,
Yeah, it's
I
almost
could
just
think about that
predictable
happening.
at this
Yeah.
point. Like,
Don't quote me on that. I just like
Don't worry, Anita. No one's be like, Anita, you're spreading false information.
no, like
You never know. I wouldn't put it past, I don't
Yeah.
know what association is like governing med schools
Yeah.
and stuff in Canada, but I wouldn't put it past them.
I do have a question, I guess, because we're talking about like false information. So like
Thank
you were
you.
talking about, like, for example, one of the cases that we were talking about, like like you had a refugee claimant, and I'm just wondering, I guess because I'm trying to compare it with criminal law, because I heard a lot of like people talking about criminal law, and that sometimes some of them just tell the person, do not tell me if you did or did not do the crime, so that I'm not biased.
Yeah.
From your perspective, like you have like the testimony of the person, and I guess the federal government is trying to say that this person is lying. Is it possible that you represent someone that you know is lying, or like if you knew, like after like the case is submitted, like, oh, I think that person was like being like truthful? How do you navigate like lying? Because I think it could happen in cases like this.
I think law generally,
It could, someone will be lying at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to have clients that come to you who are lying, or you're going to have clients who are like making up this whole story. But I think what it is at the end of the day, as a lawyer, you have to take what your client tells you for word, and that's it. I mean, one thing with my clients is when I feel like I'm not being told the truth, obviously, this doesn't even have anything to do with being a lawyer. It's like your intuition is telling you that someone's lying to you. Your gut's telling you that. I've had those moments, and in those moments, I'm just I have to redirect the client in the sense of just like, tell me what the truth is, and that's what I can explain. That's it. And if what you're telling me, or if what my client is telling me is their version of the truth, that's what I have to go with.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not your responsibility as a lawyer. It's the client's responsibility to tell you the truth, and it's your client's responsibility to be honest with you about their circumstances. And especially even like in immigration law, there's actually so much intersection with criminal law. I work with a lot of like immigrants who have criminality. So in situations like that's a moment where I just I need the client to tell me the truth about what happened more so in that situation. So if someone's convicted of a crime, I need to know, how did it play out? Like, I need to know the story of it. And the charges and the convictions are important, but it's more so when I have to tell the story of the client, that's when I need them to go through like a line by line, like, truth. I don't want to say truth, but like their version of the truth.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, sure, I'm sure I've had clients who have lied to me, but it's also a matter of just reaffirming to your client that it's your job. You need to tell me the truth and what your version of the truth is. And as a lawyer, you can only do so much sometimes, right? I'm
really happy about immigration law, because now I'm thinking about it. You already mentioned like it's intersects with criminal law, and earlier you were talking about doing things for like corporations, so it also intersects with the corporate law. Yeah. So I'm like, wow, like it's pretty diverse.
Yes, it's a very diverse
really like that.
area. Yeah, I mean, my favorite work to do is actually like, I guess because I thought I wanted to be a criminal lawyer, when I get immigration cases that involve criminals, it kind of gives me that like little bit of my passion involved in it. I mean, immigration law is a passion, and I am passionate about it. But when I get a little,
old,
it's almost like I'm connecting with my old self a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, I get like there is an area, because in Canada, the times that you're going to be dealing with criminality in immigration is for people who are in Canada as immigrants. If you have a criminal background, you're not allowed to be here. That's usually how it works. So in those cases, it's exciting. Like you're kind of dabbling in different areas of law. Not like, I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I have to speak with other criminal lawyers. Sometimes I have to like do a little bit of research on the criminal code, or find case laws from the Supreme Court or whatever it is, and that kind of just gets me to connect a little bit more with like my younger self, I guess.
You know how we were talking about misconceptions regarding like clients and immigration? Are there any misconceptions regarding immigration law? Like, as a lawyer, simply yourself, like, was there something that you might have thought like something operates a certain way, and then when you actually like went to it, it was a complete different way? Or just like any about like misconceptions about the job itself, like about immigration, like as an immigration lawyer?
It's hard to think of it off the top of my head, because it's like, I'll be honest, immigration law isn't like the hottest topic of, or hottest area of law generally, right? Like when you think of someone being a lawyer, you think of corporate law, you think of family law, criminal law, whatever. So I feel like I didn't really have any misconceptions, except for maybe, I guess, when I started working with corporations more. I didn't realize how much companies needed immigration lawyers until I actually started doing the work. So I think that was probably my biggest, like, oh, like, that's interesting. Like, this company needs us. Like, that's not to say I didn't know that, you know, places had, like, you know, workers from all over the world. Obviously, there's that. But I didn't realize how much companies actually need them.
Right.
That's probably one misconception that comes to mind.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, with all the misconceptions that we talked about already, like, immigration law will be shifting in the future with all of, like, you know, the stuff going on? Or do you think it
Yeah.
will be the same?
I mean, I
think you would hope it doesn't change.
I
but-
would hope that people still reach out to representatives, that's for sure, because it's so easy to mess up your own application. Like, a lot of people do immigration applications on their own, which is fine, but then they'll come to us with the problem, and it's something that would only be caught by someone who has the training and the knowledge
Right.
and all those things. So in terms of, like, things that might be changing, it's more so business related, I guess. Like, you're not going to have as many, you know, depending on the federal government and how they change immigration accordingly. Like, you just might not have as many clients, right? Because they're not letting as many people in. But again, like, this country cannot function without immigrants. So
Right.
I would hope that the work just kind of continues and is ongoing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess to wrap it up, do you have any advice to students and to women? And I guess to students, maybe you want to touch upon, like, what to do, especially as an undergrad, like academic or volunteer community experiences, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I could one other topic I could talk about for days because I feel like these years of being an undergrad and your 3 years in law school are so formative. So I think one thing is you got to get involved. Like, I think one of the things, especially with law school applications, they have started taking a bit more of a holistic approach, right? So yeah, your grades have to be good, your LSAT needs to be good, but, like, do you have a life outside of being a student?
Answer
like,
that, Anita.
Yeah, like, do you know, like,
Actually,
like, what do you do in your spare time? Like, are you
Right.
are you in student clubs? Are you on student council?
good.
Like, these,
I think
you'll be
I'm
fine. You'll be fine. You have a podcast. It's,
Yeah.
You know, so I think one thing as a student, like, you got to be involved. You got to be a little bit diverse in your resume. Like, make sure you have some fun things on there. Like, not everything needs to be law related. Like, if you volunteer at, you know, the aquarium, that's awesome. Put it in your resume.
she's like, look here. I'd be like, no, write that down right now.
But yeah, I mean, stay involved as a student. You know, also another misconception is that, like, you have to do political science or you have to do, you know, criminology in your undergrad. No, like, I know people who were in law school who did, like, a background in math or did a background in biology and they went to law school. So just do what will get you good grades. Doesn't matter what your program is. And then
Good grades really matter.
yeah,
for-
your good grades, like, grades should be good. But in the event that your grades are not the most up there, that's
Yes,
where you can rely on your extracurriculars and things like that.
Yeah, because I remember you were saying that. I was happy that you mentioned that. Like, you know, there were some grades that are not your
Yeah.
best on your transcript,
For
and
sure.
that, you know, it works.
Yeah,
It-
I mean,
it
I didn't
happens.
have the strongest application, but, like, I think, and also with advice, it's just like you have to be resilient. Like, I think that this area of work is very tiresome and it can be emotionally draining. It doesn't matter what area of law you work in. It doesn't have to be immigration or criminal law or family law. Like, every area of law is exhausting. Every lawyer I know is exhausted. So you just have to be resilient. You have to be passionate about working hard, and you have to be passionate about like, getting results, because that what you're trying to do is just represent your client the best that you can. So I think as long as you are passionate about your work and you're resilient, you'll get to where you need to be.
Going to federal courts and all those, like, cases that you opposed, right?
Yeah.
Was it like stressful? How did you manage? How did you, like,
Oh my
just
gosh.
as like a last question. Just
Yeah. I mean,
How did
okay.
you,
Yeah, I was like, we're wrapping up, but
Well,
never mind, Anita.
no, like I was just like wondering about that because I know a lot of people that would undergo that type of like stress.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, how did you just simply put like how did you?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I'm still dealing with it.
I'm still. I mean,
Just processing it.
luckily with federal court, I haven't actually made a physical appearance yet because my work does get settled, so I don't have to go to court.
Right.
Right.
So I don't
she just
actually
flexed
have
on
to
us
go
like
to-
that.
I actually don't have to go to court, at least yet. I haven't been told I have to go to court just yet. But even if I'm at like the refugee board or the immigration appeal division, like these areas of like you know what, or like these courthouses or like these panels that you have to go in front of, like it sounds bad, but you just gotta fake it till you make it. So like I mean, even any hearing or any appearance I've had, I've probably was up the night before, really exhausted, trying to make sure I know all the facts of the case, trying to find any potential issues like up until the last minute. But I think the second you're on. And you are just like, you have no choice. And it's almost like comparable to writing an exam, right? Like a closed book exam. Once you're on. And you just do what you have to do. You do what you know, and you'll get through it. So it's a little bit of like faking it until you make it. And then another part of it is just like, you just got to do what you got to do to represent the client the best that you can.
Okay.
That's all it is.
I feel like it's also comparable
give it
to
your
like
best, yeah.
podcasts too,
Yeah.
because you know, like it's just like suddenly you're just like in front
suddenly
of
you're on.
a camera,
Yeah.
and we edit like
Yeah.
we edit, but like it's not like a
We
very
edit.
reliant.
Yeah.
we're not crazy reliance on
Yeah.
editing. So you're like, don't say something that will not work out somehow.
I mean, I think like those appearances are scary, and like if you want to go to law school, you might find yourself in court a lot more than you think. But I think again, it's once you're on, but as long as you're prepared, you'll be fine. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
Just give it your best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that wraps up
Awesome.
our interview. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just I'm glad that that an organization or a student club like this exists at York
you.
University, because when I was in undergrad, nothing like this existed, and it was hard to connect with lawyers and things like that. Like that wasn't a thing for me, right? So I'm just really glad that you guys are doing this. It's amazing. So you should be proud of yourself.
I'm gonna cry now. I told you I'm too emotional for these stuff.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
with
you for
us.
so
having
much
me.
for being here, and
Thank you.
we'll see you guys later in another episode of Lady Justice Talks. That's where curiosity meets law.
Bye.